Good morning, everyone. Welcome to NICAR and Multi-Association webinar, where we give everyone an opportunity to advertise their top priority. But before we do, we often have a presenter on to give us some content that's going to be useful in our lives. We always do a short presentation, we allow for a Q&A, and then afterwards we give everyone who shows up and stays online a chance to advertise whatever their top priority is. It could be landlord, tenant, buyer, seller, or if you are not a broker, or even you're a residential broker and you just want to learn more about commercial real estate, you're welcome. And then commercial practitioners, lenders, CPAs, attorneys, whoever, if you have services that you can offer and you say, you know what, I would really like these connections, we're all here to help each other. So whether it's you saying, hey, I could be part of this deal, or I would like to contact you more with more information, you have clients, or someone you can connect someone, that's what we're all here for. So I appreciate everyone taking the time to help each other. That's what we do best. Let's pay it forward and make this a cooperative world. So our presenter this week is Bruce Fisher with White Glove Building Inspections. I've known him for a very long time, and as far as I remember, he could probably tell you how many years he's been in, but I have been in commercial real estate and real estate for almost 30 years, and the last 2.5 decades, much of it doing commercial, and he's done many of my own inspections plus for clients. And he is going to talk about some of the common issues that we have in inspections, but for sure he will entertain your questions when he's done. Bruce, if you want to give us a little bit about your background and then go, we'd love to hear what you have to say today.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Bruce Fisher, White Glove Building Inspections. I've been inspecting with White Glove for 35 years. Before that, probably another 5. I was a commercial builder before that, so that's how I ended up getting into inspections and commercial inspections particularly. We run a multi-inspector firm, so we have multiple guys that go out and do commercial inspections. We've done anything from high-rises downtown to small little office condos for commercial buildings.
Great. So can you tell us a little bit about common problems or common inspection issues that you experience?
We started off with the meeting highlights as the top issues found during a commercial inspection. So let's start right up on top. One of the biggest issues that's found is actually the roofs, when we're actually up on roofs, things like that, because buyers, realtors, they're not getting up on the roofs and taking a look at them. And it's the number one thing that I find that no one knows anything about. Their roof, and they don't know the age, they don't know the condition, they don't know when it was replaced, things like that. They don't know what maintenance was done on it or any warranty. So we're really concerned about making sure that that's okay. So we get up there and take a look at it. The biggest concerns are the type of roof. Is it one of the older modified bid or some sort of asphalt roof, or is it has been replaced, and has there been a warranty on it? So we start up there and take a look at it, and it's amazing the cost that someone has to do to replace it, and they don't realize that. And since we're starting up on top, we might as well go right into the heating systems on the rooftop units. The rooftop units up on a roof, combo between heating and cooling, if they are up there, a lot of times they're not getting the maintenance that they need as well. I've done buildings with 30, 35 rooftop units on there, and probably half of them are bad, or they need to have some sort of maintenance. And the cost to replace a rooftop unit is quite expensive, and that's why we look at them carefully. Some of the other issues that we do when we get them in the building is the age of the electrical, where the, hold on, he can't be here, right there, that man right there. Hi, Jamie. The rooftop units, I'm sorry, we're going back to the electrical, just the cost of the electrical system, if it's aged, what they need to do to replace it, things like that, size, and even their need. We don't know their need when we go there. We try to have a conversation to figure out exactly what they need for their property that they're going to buy, or their function in the building. But if they're going from a warehouse to some sort of manufacturing, they're going to need more electricity, but they're going to go the other way. If it was a manufacturing with sizable electrical, then if they're going to go to storage, they may not need that much, so they'll be just fine. And then the dated old panels, units that need to be replaced. And then, of course, any lighting updates that they probably need to do with some of the new LED lighting and things like that they take care of. Some of the other things we're finding and looking at is, of course, the structure. Many times we're looking at foundations that have settlement issues, foundations that have moved and there's some serious costly repairs that need to be made. Along with that, we're looking at the exterior. If it's a brick building, of course, the size and cost of the tuck pointing that needs to take place when you're actually doing the repair or renovation on the property to make it look fine. Some of the other things that people don't realize is when they're looking at a heating system, it's actually looking at the boilers. What boilers are actually there? If it's a sizable building and they have a pressure vessel, basically a large boiler, and we're talking about a high pressure vessel is 160 psi or more, and that's where the state of Illinois is going to inspect that every year with the state fire marshal. Below that is maybe every couple of years, but your typical residential boiler that you see, like a Whale McLean, a normal unit, might only run about 6, 8, 12 psi. These high pressure boilers are 160 psi. They don't leak, they explode. So that's why it's an issue. You got to make sure that that's maintained. Some of the other things that we're looking at is, of course, the fire suppression system to make sure that they're actually dated properly and they've been checked. We don't do the pressure checks in any of those, but we do make sure that they're actually current, so that way the property is protected. And along with the sprinkler system, if it's an older building, we find out or ask the buyer to find out if they're going to need a sprinkler system in that new building that they're buying. The old owners may be grandfathered in, but the new buyers may not, and they may need to have that building sprinkled or a fire suppression system installed. Some of the other things we're finding is environmental issues, asbestos that they may not have known about, lead, things like that. Mold or things those are pretty common that we find. Some of them are easy to fix, but some of the asbestos could be costly to repair or remove or encapsulate. And then, of course, if there's any phase one issues that need to come up, if it's a property that's going to need a phase issue, and ironically, we find like monitoring wells around exterior properties, and all they're doing is monitor subsoil leakage of petroleum products or some other chemicals that somebody's looking to make sure that it's not contaminating that property. Things like that. And then, of course, the sprinkler, the outside, we're looking at the parking lot. Buyers don't realize the cost it's really going to take to repair or replace a parking lot. When you're looking at a large parking lot, it could be $150,000 to $200,000, and you tell somebody that, and they're just amazed at the cost of that. So we always are aware of that and tell them what it's going to really cost up front. And another thing we go over with the buyers to make sure that they're aware of is cost to cure a lot of the issues. For instance, we talked briefly about a roof, but they could be $20 a square foot to replace. And there's a variety of different roofs out there. There's TPO, TPO is basically a polyvinyl, it's like a plastic. And then we have EPDM, which is a rubber roof. There's coatings that people put on, elastometric roof, and those are Band-Aids on some of the roofs, and they basically extend the life, but they're not putting a new roof on. So people have to be really aware of that, of what they're going to do to repair it or replace it, and how much it's really going to cost. Another thing is, of course, we talked about the parking lot and the rooftop units. I have commonly told people that they're $20,000, $25,000 to replace, and if they're way up in the air, you may be looking at an addition of the crane costs, and sometimes they dismantle them to get them up there, depending on what they really have to do. We look at the electrical and what it's going to cost to really update that. And if the transformer outside, we try to size that to make sure everything's okay that way, and the transformer's inside. And what buyers don't realize is that green transformer outside on their property, on a commercial piece of property, is sometimes theirs, and they need to address that to make sure that it is in fact okay in case they have to replace it. And then we're looking at the general condition of the older plumbing, things like that, to make sure there isn't any leakage and things like where water heaters are leaking, fixtures that was going around the building, and taking a look at that. One of the other things that is it depends on the building, but if we're looking at docks and dock levelers, or we're actually testing the dock levelers, the cost that it really takes to maintain and repair those, along with older buildings that may not have a sump pump at the base of their dock. And as long as doing that, we also have looking for triple catch basins. We're looking to get rid of sediment along the way and making sure those are okay. That's a lot of what we're looking at during the commercial inspections. We put that all into a format, a report that they can readily read, and it has cost of cures on it. There are a couple of standards out there that I want to make sure that buyers, realtors are aware of. One, there's the ASTM standard, which is basically a survey. It's basically walk through the property and check all the components that are on that survey. The latest standard was put out in 24. That's the latest update. And there's the CCPIA, which is the Certified Commercial Property Inspectors Organization. And it's a little bit different standard. They're similar, but they do require certain things to be looked at. We kind of modified both of them, put them together, so it's kind of a hybrid. So we're covered on both standards. And then that report is issued accordingly to meet those standards. And of course, we can use the report or do the inspection to meet the standard that the buyer wants. I've had buyers say, I don't want you to look at my roof. I'm going to have a roofer come out, or I don't need you to look at my heating systems. I have a heating company coming out, and that's fine. We've modified our inspection report to meet that. That's basically a commercial inspection. Sometimes they could take a couple hours. I've been in this commercial inspection for a couple of days. Depends on the property. Again, we have a multi-inspector firm that can handle a lot of that for you. Okay, Teresa, that's pretty much where I'm at.
Thank you. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, go ahead and use the raise hand button. I do have a few questions. So typically, when you go through this checklist of items, are you comfortable providing with the buyer or any set of parties cost to do these things? Like you just gave cost for parking lot, for example.
Actually, cost of cure is part of the ASTM standard. So okay. I have no problem doing that. I know some of the other competitors, they don't do it or they add it on as an extra expense. I include that into my report. Recently, I did an office warehouse in LaGrange or Countryside, and we went through, you need 3 heating systems up under 3 RTUs, $60,000. You need a roof, and another $65,000, $70,000. You need the parking lot patched, striped, and resealed, another $35,000, $40,000, and we add that in so that way they're aware of those costs. Okay.
So a lot of times, and some of our audience knows, I go to exchange meetings, and one of the things that we like to ask when someone's presenting a listing for sale, a commercial building for sale, is, hey, if I give you $100,000 today, how would you spend it on the building? Because a lot of times they say it's turnkey, no deferred maintenance, but if you say, okay, I'm going to give you $100,000, it kind of tells you, okay, where are the problems, right? And so what are you typically seeing? Where are people spending a lot of that money right now when trying to update mechanicals, roof? Where are they seeing that huge money expenditure right now?
Right now, I would say roofs, because a lot of people don't understand or haven't repaired their roof properly. When a commercial building buys a roof and has it put on, there's a warranty that usually goes into place with that. As long as they maintain an inspection from the installer, typically at least once a year, or whatever that maintenance schedule or their warranty requires it. And if they don't do it, they lose that warranty. So they should put some money towards repairing their roof, okay? Mm-hmm. The other thing is to make sure, of course, their heating systems are working. It doesn't take much to really maintain their heating systems, but unfortunately, a lot of times the owners of the property neglect the roof, the heating systems up on their roof. Mm-hmm. One of the other things that sellers do that shouldn't be done is they have unqualified people do electrical work. All too often, we have found panels that are have a bunch of electrical installation safety concerns. Double taps, wrong size wires, or just wide open electrical panels that are just unsafe. Okay for them as a factory, but if you're trying to sell that piece of property, they should be taken care of and all of those safety concerns be properly updated.
All right, so I have a question about a roof, and then we'll go to Peter. And again, anyone else who has a question, please do use the raise hand reaction or write it in the chat. I can look there. Regarding the roof, I know that I've been contacted by multiple people about solar or different energy savings in terms of roof systems. Can you speak to that at all?
Well, the only one that I always am surprised at, and maybe a little bit of residential inspection is going to come into this, is about who actually owns the solar panels and the encumbrance it is on the property when they do it. We only think there are solar inspections that are done. They use a drone with a thermal camera. We can actually look at the solar system to see whether or not there's any sections of it that are not working, and that's something that can be done. We haven't started that. We're looking into it, but it's something that we are considering. And then there's actually all of the connections from the roof to the solar installation brackets that are up on the roof. Those are all looked at very carefully, so that way there's no issue with flashing details on those. Okay? And then, of course, then you have an electrical requirement that needs to take place. How is that building actually using that energy? And how's it taking that power from the solar panels, and what's the conversion down in by the electrical? Is it generating? Is it a battery bank? Is it selling it back to Commonwealth Edison? What's it doing with it? Sometimes we might get an electrical contractor or somebody familiar with solar to come in to actually do that part of that inspection, or whoever did that system to come in and explain it again to the new buyer.
Are you seeing that solar energy on the roofs will sufficiently supply all of the building's needs throughout the entire year?
No, not even close. Can't do it. The fallacy is that we need sunshine, and we're not getting it every day, so it's not going to maintain it, and it cannot produce enough for that. It'll be supplemental, but it can't keep up with that with a factory. Maybe a storage facility where they might have a real low threshold or low load on the property, but not for a manufacturing with high energy use. I've been in buildings with 30,000 amps coming in or more, and they need every bit of it for their factory. And I've also been in what I thought probably was undersized, and it's 600 amps or 400 amps, and all it is a storage office warehouse, and it's just storage buildings, and there's no need for that a large amperage or requirement.
Peter, what's your question?
Well, actually, it's not a question. I just want to make a comment. Hi, Bruce. How you doing?
I'm fine, sir.
Good. You look great. Actually, I had a client who bought a building, 80,000 square foot building, and closed on it without doing an inspection. It turns out that the building was built in the 1970s, when I believe they took out the asbestos from the buildings, and it was at the cusp. And what they looked at is the tiles on the ground were 12 by 12 tiles that they figured that they're not asbestos tiles, so we're okay. But they did not get an inspector to go in. It ended up that they took off the tiles, and unbeknownst to them, that the adhesive was made of asbestos. So that had to be removed. So $150,000 later, they cleaned it all up and ended up doing their project. But my point is, if they had hired an inspector in the beginning for a couple $1,000s or whatever you charge, they would have saved $150,000 by letting the seller know that they need a credit for the asbestos to close on the building. So it's just a story. I mean, using it
even if we're not doing the phase one or the environmentals, we would still mention that you would have 12 by 12 or their classic 9 by 9 tiles that would have the asbestos, and the mastic, the blackjack mastic on there, it always contained asbestos. So that so we would probably mention you might have an environmental issue. You should get these tested.
Right.
People don't realize that the white insulation tape on a lot of heating ducts is also asbestos, or transite, which is panels, hard, dense panels, is asbestos as well, asbestos particles. So there's thousands of products that contain asbestos that should be at least looked at and or mentioned if you see them, or we see them as an inspection company on the site. Okay.
Right.
So there's a question in the chat asking about disclosures, what you receive in terms of disclosures on the commercial side.
Part of the ASTM standards is that we actually send a letter out or an email out to the listing agent and say, can we have whatever information you have about it? And we have a series of questions. I think we get that back once out of every 100 times that we get any information. If we even, it might be even every 200 times do we get any information at all. I think, and that's unfortunate because we're trying to do the most thorough inspection for them so that there's no issues for disclosure and or liability for their part. But we don't get them back that often. And even if they disclose something, while we appreciate the information, we usually try to find it out on our own as to what they have. Okay.
What do you personally disclose as to your limitations and inspections?
I tell them that there's a lot of things we will not and do not do. We don't do your elevator. We don't do your sprinkler system. We don't do your escalators, things like that. And it depends on the building. And then some of the real high-end heating systems, like if someone has a chiller, we'll bring out a heating contractor out that is doing that sort of system. Things like that. We will bring out a specialist if we have to. And that's usually what happens. Let's see what else. There are some issues that we won't look at. Depends on the electrical system, what we're opening and not opening. We're not opening up the main distribution lugs, but we are opening up the other panels. Okay. We're not getting into the one where there's a couple thousand amps, but all the other sub panels, all the distribution panels, lighting panels, LP panels, PP panels, power panels, lighting panels, M panels, machinery panels, things like that. We're looking at those, but we're not getting in where all the big disconnects are. We're not opening up a lot of those. So that's probably our limitations. And then a lot of our guys on our crew that actually inspect for us, electrician, I got a roofing guy, so we have bolstered our inspection crew to make sure that we're covered and we can do more things. Okay?
All right, so we'll wrap this up. If you could please tell us, and I didn't tell you I was going to ask this, a fun, silly, funny story that kind of stands out in your head, like, oh my God, I love to tell this at parties, so people just appreciate what I do, or it's just a fun story.
It's probably how you, and I'm going to put this on inspection, it's probably how you find monitoring wells. One of the first monitoring wells I ever found years ago, I probably tripped over. So you end up like, oh, what was that? And there's a big old lug, a big old circle, and it has U.S. Geological Survey, and then it has and it says monitoring well on it, and you end up hooking your foot out and falling over, and you go, oh, that's where that monitoring well is. So that's how you end up. I've been more cognizant of looking for monitoring wells since then.
Much more physically aware.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I planned this.
Thank you very much for all that information, Bruce. So everyone, I encourage you to put your information in the chat. You can reach Bruce outside of here. Carol is also, his wife is on the board for NICAR. This recording will be available through our NICAR page as well as the YouTube page. I'm always open to suggestions. So if there's content you'd like to hear more about, please contact me, Teresa Mueller, at info@trillium.com. Or you can send a note to info@nicar.com. And then when we end the recording, I encourage everyone to stay on so that you can advertise your number one need, and we'll all help each other. Thank you, everyone, for showing up to today's presentation, and thank you so much, Bruce, for presenting.